I'm in the big leagues, told him don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort this piss poor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka AA Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, we have now had 3 games in the NBA Finals. Last time I came to you, last week we had our NBA Finals preview show with the one and only Matty Ice. Shout out to Matty Ice for being on his first ever podcast episode. Doing a great job. Appreciate y'all giving my little bro some love. Expert NBA analyst. He's been proven to be right so far. That Celtics defense is no joke. So shout out to Matty Ice. You can be on the show whenever you want. And whenever you want, I mean when I seem fit or deem fit. Anyway, let's get into kind of a recap of what's happened so far in the NBA Finals and talk about what's coming up as well. So far, this Celtics Warriors series has kind of played out the way I anticipated. I picked Golden State in 7, and I still feel pretty confident about that. Going into this matchup, when I was looking at, tendencies on both teams and just kind of I'm no analyst, but just looking at both teams for what they were and what they did in this playoff run, I'm like, ooh, this has potential to be a classic 7-game series. And so far it seems to be headed in that direction. If we look at game 1, obviously Boston won game run on the road after blitzing Golden State in that fourth quarter. They basically did to Golden State what Golden State normally does to teams in the third quarter, but Boston did it in the fourth quarter. So, it was crazy. 3 after 3. Al Horford back-to-back threes. Marcus Smart with threes. Before we know it, they were up 18, 19 points. I was like, what the heck? And the Warriors were up 15 points in that third quarter of game 1. Pretty much, had that game in the bag, but ended up blowing it. But so a game 1, Boston stole home court, if you would say, by winning game 1. But game 2, Golden State bounced back, obviously. They had to respond. They couldn't lose both games at home. That would have been a disaster for them. But responded in game 2 with a pretty dominating performance throughout most of the game. Steph Curry had 29 points, shot pretty well from the field. Jordan Poole also put in some very timely 3-point shots as well and played pretty well overall. Draymond Green, in his game 2 performance versus game 1, he played much better by not shooting the ball as many times. He shot the ball 12 times in game 1 and I think had 3 field goals or 4 field goals in game 2. So that's what we need, Draymond. That's what we need. Don't take 12 shots. So, but he shot 12 times, like I said, in game 1. Had his pretty much normal standard triple single, if you want to call it, in game 2. His stat line's 9, 8, and 8 or something like that. I don't exactly have it pulled up, but a bounce back game for the Golden State Warriors in game 2. So series tied, going back to Boston, and I wasn't surprised by that. I had a feeling that they were going to split the first 2 games, and I have a feeling that they're going to split the games 3 and 4 in Boston, but I'll get to that a little bit later. So let's talk about game 3. Boston came out pretty much red hot in game 3, hitting multiple 3-point shots in that first quarter. They were balling out. Jaylen Brown was hooping in that first quarter of game 3. Had 17 points in the first quarter and has had a pretty great series so far. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Jaylen Brown a little bit later towards the end of the show. But Boston played extremely well in that first half, led by 11 points at the end of the first quarter. And second quarter was mostly back and forth between the teams. I think you had Golden State cutting the lead down to about 7 points, if I'm not mistaken, at one point in the second quarter. But ultimately, they were down by 12 points at half, losing by 1 point in that second quarter to the Boston Celtics. So Boston was sitting pretty in the second half, but what did I just mention just a little bit ago? Golden State, third quarter team. So third quarter came around, and what happened? Golden State gonna Golden State, you know what I mean? Second half, the Warriors have always been a second half team in their championship run, specifically a third quarter team. So Golden State, oh my God, I can't read my own handwriting. Goodness gracious. So Steph Curry hit a three in the third quarter to go up 83-82 after they were down. I think the Warriors were down at one point by about 17 points in that third quarter. So, but they ended up taking the lead in the third quarter, the Warriors that is. But Boston led at the end of the third quarter by 4 points. So Boston was still ahead, by a small margin after getting blitzed by the Golden State Warriors in the third quarter. Now, the fourth quarter of Game 3 was a completely different story from the third. The fourth quarter was all Boston. Winning this quarter, I didn't even realize this until I was doing research for this episode. Winning this fourth quarter 23-11. Like, as great and dynamic of an offensive team that the Golden State Warriors is, they only put in 11 points. Like, that was insane to me. Now, the Boston Celtics defense has to get credit for that. I mean, the Boston Celtics defensive scheme was executed perfectly in the fourth quarter. Not so much in the first three quarters. They were better offensively than the Warriors in the first three quarters, but defensively, they definitely picked it up. They didn't drop against Golden State's ball screens because, I mean, that's basically what happened in the first half. Like, they would, Golden State Warriors would ball screen, the Celtics big would drop back in coverage, and Steph would hit a three, Clay would hit a three, Jordan Poole would hit a three, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, they have amazing shooters. Like, why are you dropping in your ball screen pick and roll coverage? So I didn't get it. I mean, clearly Ime Udoka was sure he was furious as well. But they forced the Golden State Warriors to penetrate and make plays in the half-court set in that fourth quarter specifically. And like I said, they executed their defensive game plan pretty well, and it was pretty eye-opening to see, like, that Golden State Warriors offense in the half court. They obviously are a team that likes to fast break and get transition threes and kind of, take you out of the game that way. That's what they do in their third quarters, but they weren't able to do the same thing in the fourth quarter. So shout out to the Boston Celtics defense specifically for getting them to where they were in that fourth quarter. Like I said, credit to the Boston Celtics defense for causing the Warriors to struggle to score in that fourth quarter. Steph Curry also, unfortunately, got hurt late in the fourth quarter of Game 3 with about 4 minutes left, I believe it was. The reports are that he's avoided a major injury. It was to his foot. Reports are that he, will not, miss any time. He said himself that he will be playing in Game 4 despite the minor injury. But seems that he's okay, but pretty much everybody is playing banged up, this time of year. When you're playing into June, you probably got some sort of nagging injury that you're dealing with. So, that's not going to be an excuse. I don't want to hear it. If the Golden State Warriors end up losing the series, like, whoa, Steph hurt his foot. Like, no, I don't want to hear that. Jason Tatum's playing with a shoulder injury. Marcus Smart's got multiple injuries. Al Horford's got multiple injuries. Robert Williams is basically playing on one leg. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, everybody's out there playing hurt. So, but thankfully, he's not going to be out, at least as of right now, for any length of time during the series, because they absolutely need him to be, they need him to be 100%, but I'm sure they'll take 90% Steph over 0% Steph. So, but like I mentioned, this is going to be a relatively short show, just, recapping the finals of what happened so far. Series is playing out pretty much how I anticipated. I expect Game 4 to be relatively close, though. I mean, we've seen, Boston won by a pretty sizable margin in Game 1. Golden State won by a pretty sizable margin in Game 2. And then, Boston ended up winning again by a pretty sizable margin due to an incredible fourth quarter in Game 3. But I expect a relatively close game in the fourth quarter. So I am going to go ahead and predict, because I believe when you're listening to this obviously comes out on Friday, they play tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So I am predicting a Golden State Warriors victory tonight. I mean, it's pretty much a must-win for them. You can't go back home, down 1-3. Like, it can be done. Ask the Golden State Warriors. It was done against them. But I don't believe that the Golden State Warriors will lose that Game 4. I think this series will be tied 2-2, heading back to Golden State and San Francisco for a pivotal Game 5. And this will make this series a best of 3. But as of right now, like I said, I am not worried about my prediction one bit. I definitely think the series is going the distance. I could even see it being, and both teams, I could see Golden State winning Game 4, going to win Game 5, Boston winning Game 6, and then we get a pivotal Game 7, and where anything can happen. But like I said, I'm still riding with my pick of Golden State in 7. Honestly, at this point, with the way the series has played out, I would be surprised if Golden State, I would be surprised if this series did not go to 7 games, just based off the way these two teams have played each other up to this point. But switching gears just slightly, a lot of great performances so far in this series. Well, mostly on the Boston side, but you got great performance from one particular player that I want to talk about. I kind of want to talk about like my Finals MVP watch, like who I think, as of right now, 3 games in, should be the Finals MVP. So, I mean, like I said, a lot of great performances so far. You've got Jaylen Brown averaging 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Having a pretty great series, I would say. I mean, Jason Tatum is their best player, most talented player, but Jaylen Brown is balling, and he definitely deserves some credit for this 2-1 series lead that they have right now. Jason Tatum, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, not shooting the ball as efficiently from the field, but shooting 43% from 3-point range, which isn't bad. And Derek White, and I got to give a shout out to my ex-Spurs players. Derek White playing pretty well, 13 points, shooting 46% from 3-point range, hitting some pretty big threes, especially in that game 1 where they came back in that 4th quarter. And you have on the Golden State side, pretty much one player consistently being great, which obviously is none other than Steph Curry. 31 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 48% from the field, and 48% from 3-point field goal range. So, I mean, it can't just be him. Like, he's got to have some help. Clay's got to step up. Jordan Poole's got to step up. Draymond Green, all of them. I mean, everybody's got to step up. Otherwise, Golden State Warriors, if it's just him, Steph putting up 30-plus points, and everybody putting up less than 12, they're gonna lose the series. Like he's got to get his he's got to get a Robin to his Batman, at least I would say. But in terms of Finals MVP watch, if Boston wins this series, I would say as of right now it's a toss-up between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. If I had to choose though, if Boston were to win the series, say the series were to end today, Boston wins 2-1, I would give a slight edge to Jaylen Brown. I mean, he's had some pretty big time shots and had some timely quarters. That 4th quarter of game 1 and the 1st quarter of game 3, like phenomenal quarters from Jaylen Brown, has played really well. Also shooting better from the field than Jason Tatum is by a pretty significant margin. Jason Tatum shooting like 33% from the field, whereas Jaylen Brown shooting well over 40%. Also shooting better than Jason Tatum from the free throw line as well, which makes sense. Free throws almost actually cost them that series against the Miami Heat, the Celtics was, but funny enough, he is shooting better than Jason Tatum. So if Boston wins this series, as of now, 3 games in, I would give the Finals MVP to Jaylen Brown. But if Golden State wins, this one's a no-brainer. It's Steph Curry. I mean, consistently been great overall in this series. He's had some bad quarters for these 3 games so far, but he has consistently been the best player on the Golden State Warriors and often been the best player on the floor as well. So, I mean, Steph Curry, if they end up winning this series and he plays pretty much, he averages his 30 points, he's getting Finals MVP for the first time ever. So that's, like I said, that's if they win. But we shall see. But Boston wins, Jaylen Brown. Golden State wins, Steph Curry. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you fine folks today. Go out and watch Game 4 tonight with your friends and family if you want to. And if not, that's fine too. Do what makes you happy. But if you can do all the good things, like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like, share, leave comments. I love to see those. But I hope you have a great weekend. So see you next week. I can't remember the final schedule. Will there be another episode next week? There will be a season finale episode, regardless of the outcome of this finals. But anyway, enjoy your weekend, have fun, and I will see you next week.
I got attend to car payments and a rent due. Told y'all that I'm 6 foot, but with the money stabbing, I'm 10-2. Too much that I've been through, so I put it all in that rear view. Clean money in a black whip, got old problems with the friends new. Yeah, I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. Yeah, I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog.